Hello, thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. We are back at you again with episode number 53 with my very special guest, Jared Mann. Jared Mann is a very talented musician. He's been in a number of bands locally. Most recently, he's in the band Twin Foxes. Basically, all of the bands that he's in are his bands. I mean, he is the predominant songwriter of the bands. So it's Twin Foxes, Willow, Great Western States. But not only is he a great musician and a songwriter, but a talented engineer as well. So he owns Distorted Forest Studios, which I was happy to go and explore a little bit for this conversation that we had this evening. Distorted Forest Studios is just a huge shed, huge garage. Yeah, I think garage is fair to say. And it's a great space. He's been building it out. He's been kind of working on it. It's still a work in progress, but it's definitely up and running. And a lot of the bands that he has recorded there, I actually own a lot of those records, I've realized. And also, all of his own projects, like this one here, is Twin Foxes Sleeping on the Attic Floor. This is a great record. I picked this up locally at my local shop, Armageddon. And the new album is Broken Bell, which is still... I was a little confused when we were having our talk. The vinyl is still available for pre-order. You can... we'll link it in the show description in the show notes. But it's basically through their Bandcamp page, and you can still pre-order the vinyl, okay? So for the new album, Broken Bell, what you're actually listening to is the second track off that album, 6 Year Old. And if you stick around to the end of the episode, you'll be listening to another track called The Burden off of that latest Twin Foxes record. So, Jared is a very cool guy. I was very happy to meet him, very happy to have this talk. He decided to choose the album Jets to Brazil's Orange Rhyming Dictionary, which I was not familiar with, and I think is a very good record. I do actually like it a lot. We talk about that, so obviously you will hear my opinion in full of that record, and it was just great. It was a great talk. It was such a pleasure getting to know Jared a little better, and I hope to be seeing him again soon. So if you can please all do all those things you do with the internet, except that thing. Don't do that thing. No one wants to know about that thing. Do all the things like, share, subscribe, comment, rate and review is another thing that you can do, which is helpful for us. And if you want to know more about the show or this company, just like Psychic Static, what we do, what we sell, you can visit our website, psychicstatic.net. And without further ado, enjoy the show. All right. Well, hey, I mean, at least I have a professional in my midst, and therefore you're going to make it work out one way or another. Cool, man.
Cool.
All right. I think we're in business now.
Sweet.
So, hi, Jared.
Hey, how's it going?
It's great. Still fiddling with knobs.
That's good. Got to get the level.
Yeah. Hey, so we've already been doing quite a bit of talking, and it's been kind of nice to kind of already do a little bit of the thing where I'm kind of getting to know you.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is a great spot. Let me start off with that, because that's something I know. I looked at the list, but if you could run it down for me a little bit quickly of like some of the people that have recorded here so far.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've been doing it for a while, so there's been definitely a pretty long array of different bands, especially Providence bands and kind of Worcester area bands. But I guess more recent ones out of Providence would be like Mini Beast, Songbirds, Hammer Party. A lot of my bands have recorded here too, which would be Twin Foxes, Willow, and then some other Providence bands like Alpha Error, Jim Shorts, Barn Burning, Sharpest. They were a Western Mass band that I did a couple records with. Let me try to think here.
Well, you don't have to name them all, but I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
those were certainly some of the names that I was thinking of because I knew I was just like I can't remember the list right now off the top of my head, but I was just like I know I've seen a lot of bands that have been recording here,
Sure.
and from what I've heard because I own those mini disc records,
Yeah.
I've been listening to your records quite
Yeah.
a bit, the Twin Foxes,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and those are great.
Cool. Thanks, man.
So I have to say this. So the record you chose for tonight was Jets to Brazil's Orange Rhyming Dictionary.
Correct. Yeah.
And I've been listening to it because I have not been familiar with it. I've never listened to it
Yeah.
before. I've known that band, but
Yeah.
I've just never really like looked into it. I never kind of listened to their catalog or anything.
For sure.
And is it speaking out of turn to say that I like all of your projects more than I like Jets to Brazil?
That's totally cool. I mean, for me, it's a really personal record and kind of a time and place record, but also like a record that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of other bands, and also just like, I don't know, I guess something special about recording. It's definitely a compliment that you said that, but for me, it's a really influential record, to my musical journey, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I want to actually touch on that too because I don't know you very much. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the first time we're meeting, but I've known about you a lot. I've heard about the band. I've heard about the studio here.
Sure.
And from what I saw, I guess you grew up in this neighborhood, huh? This is North Smithfield,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. So basically, the property I kind of told you earlier, but it was my grandparents, and they had owned it. They lived, a couple streets over, basically, and it was originally for my mom, their kids, and all her brother and or two brothers and her sister to basically build houses on when they grew up. But my mom was the oldest, so she got it first, and then the property stayed with her. And probably about 8 years ago, there was a shop here that basically had an upstairs that was kind of just nothing. It was just kind of a subfloor and kind of an attic space. And I had been recording a lot in Providence and kind of DIY spots, and I had mentioned to my dad that I was kind of looking around for a spot, and he said, well, if you want to build out the upstairs, you're more than welcome to. So we started that project. He helped me do a lot of it. He had built my parents' house originally, so he was definitely, he knew what he was doing. So together we, built the stairs, pulled the walls in, insulated the rooms, did all the finish work, and then the downstairs was kind of a shared space. He had a shop there, and I would sometimes record for like larger sound stuff down there. But then he passed away, so basically the space was downstairs was going to kind of be nothing. I mean, some of it we use for the property because I pretty much manage the entire property now because it's just my mom that lives up on the hill, and
Right.
then I take care of the property, so there's a lot to do. I mean, I do all the snow plow, through the winter, all that stuff. Anything for the property, I pretty much have to do. So I use that space in conjunction with the studio. But basically, 3/4 of the downstairs I converted into a new live room, and that's where I basically wired up the upstairs and downstairs, and that's kind of the new addition to the studio. That's kind of, I think, taken it to another level. Allowed me to kind of do things differently and bigger in an acoustic way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I love what I'm hearing so far.
Yeah,
I mean, and to
thanks,
know
man.
that it's here in this space that some of these recordings have happened, I'm just like, wow. I can imagine that if these bands were set up here right now, it would sound just as good as this right now. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I do appreciate some of the tricks and stuff, some of the technique that you use too, because like I was listening to your record on the way up here, the "Sleeping on the Attic Floor."
Yep.
On there's a track. What's the track called? Nurse Hunter.
Oh, Nurse Hound.
Nurse Hound.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning of that track, what just really stood out to me was that it kind of starts off with this like drum beat,
Yeah.
but it sounds like, is it like a reverse snare hit?
Yeah, it's like a reverse kick and snare. That was actually recorded downstairs
Okay.
by our old drummer Dylan. Before the downstairs was actually a studio, it was kind of just a raw space with just a bunch of stuff down there.
Oh, okay. Because then it pans like left to right in the speakers too.
Yeah, that was like a little trick. We and I kind of set up, some room mics, and then also had some mics outside when we were recording that, so you kind of get some kind of strange kind of experimental, ness to it. But But yeah, that was a little trick that we did in mixing. We actually mixed that record at Machines because I've been a little more open to the idea of working and collaborating with other people on my own stuff, because generally if I'm writing, recording it, and producing it, it's kind of fun to work with somebody else and get another ear on it towards the end.
Sure.
I haven't done that with everything. It's only kind of been the last two records. But when I worked at Machines doing sound, I got to know those guys, and it seemed like a good pairing. So ended up doing that there. But yeah, no, I'm a super nerd when it comes to recording and, you know, little tricks and, you know, room sounds and trying maybe things a little outside the box. And we mixed that record together. I had a lot of, you know, I try to bring a lot of creative ideas into it. That's like a separate part for me. The mixing and the production is like a whole separate part than the songs themselves. And I like how they all kind of meet together and, you know, encapsulates the whole picture. That's a big part for me.
Right. Does
Putting
it
it all
stress you
together.
out when it's like your project, or do you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a little bit. You know what I mean? I think that's why I've been collaborating with other people a little bit more, because when you have a project that big, you're really close to it, and it's hard to see it fully or clearly at a certain point. Especially those records that are full length that have a lot of moving parts to them, and you spend so much time agonizing over tracking and stuff like that. You kind of want someone else just to be like, no, I think it sounds good, or we should try this or that. And you
Right.
know,
But do you trust those people when they say that?
yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't do that with anybody. You know, I ended up working with Keith and Seth for that, because they've been doing it for a while, but I also felt like we had a similar appreciation for, I don't know, production on records, or they come from a similar musical library background, you know, or something like that. I don't know how to exactly describe it, but I mean, we come from a similar area, or come from the same page. So I felt like they were good guys to work with, and I'd gotten to know them too from working at Machines. So at the time, it felt pretty convenient, and
Sure.
it was right there.
Sure.
So
I mean, they are great. I mean, it's undeniably that studio is awesome, and Keith and Seth both are equally kind of masters
For
of
sure.
their craft. You
for
know?
sure, yeah. And it's fun to collaborate with other guys. Like, you know, I have a studio here, but that doesn't mean I can't, you know, go down to someone else's studio and have a good time and collaborate with them. Like, that's really fun for me. So
I find it would probably be a great learning experience too. You know, I mean,
yeah,
just to see the different gear. I mean, just kind of get a feel for different environments, how different things work, how different people work. Like,
yeah,
the rooms, like all the different room sounds you could probably get. You know.
yeah. And kind of one of those situations, it's fun to, you know, take what I have here and combine it with someone else's stuff, and you kind of get the best of both worlds. And I think the record only benefits, you know, in the end from that. So,
Sure.
but you know, it's not something that, you know, as I'm moving forward, we're working on a new record right now, and I probably will mix it myself. But especially when I was making those, I was just so busy that sometimes it's just good to step away and get another ear on it. So I'm glad we did it, you know, on those records, and it's something that I think it's only benefited. We've only benefited from. So
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, your records sound great.
thanks, man.
So getting back to you a little bit about your own personal history. I mean, like I was asking about the house and the property here because I saw that you grew up in this neighborhood.
I basically grew up on this property. Yeah,
it was in this house, or
in the house on top of the hill. Yeah,
cool.
So I'm super. Obviously, I grew up here and I spent a lot of time here, and it's a super special place to me. That's why I kind of didn't move away, and now I'm putting a lot of time and effort into the property, and you know, trying to help my family out and do some better things for it here, because I just love it here. You know, growing up was a great experience, and it's kind of a weird part of Rhode Island. Like, it's not that far from anything, but it's pretty in the woods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Behind the property, there's nothing until Bryant College, so you're kind of in this. Some of the woods are actually protected now by. I think it's almost national forest now. I think it's pretty recently, but basically it's a pretty special sliver of northern Rhode Island that I think is cool, and I like, you know, taking care of it and keeping it in our family and kind of working on it, and I don't know, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's great. I would love to just kind of go wander
Yeah,
around the
walk
woods over
around.
here.
Yeah.
So, having grown up here, I mean, like, what? I was curious, like, where did you first fall into music? Like, did you
Yeah.
start off as a young kid, or?
Yeah, I was pretty young because I had an older brother. He was about he is about 9.5 years older than me, and he kind of introduced me into a lot of bands and skating and punk and stuff like that. And he was at an age where I think he was really excited about it, and I was significantly younger, but easily influenced at a young age.
Hmm.
But
Especially by such an older, cooler guy in the
yeah,
house, right?
yeah, exactly. And to hear it, music that kids in my grade would know nothing about. You know what I mean? Kind of hearing that at such a young age really opened my eyes to there's this whole other you know uh, music genres, and there's whole other kind of indie underground that people average people really pay no mind to or have no idea about. And I was like, well, this stuff's way better than all the other stuff going on. So taking that idea with anything with skateboarding, or which kind of has those ideas kind of built into it too, but movies and music, all that stuff kind of like really inspired me. And it was cool that they were kind of secret. I really liked that because I kind of felt like I had something special. Like me and my brother had something special, and anytime I found someone that had those similar, knew about those similar things, it was instant friendship. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I felt anytime you're into that stuff, you kind of were carving your own path and kind of going against the grain, and that was always way more exciting to me than doing what everybody else was doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you get to pick out the freaks real easily.
Oh yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
this is my tribe right here.
Absolutely.
So, when did you start playing music, and like, what was your first instrument?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of mess this up every time I talk about it, but I want to say it was probably around I was probably around 9 or 10 years old. I went over a friend's house, and basically they had a drum set in their. It was like a kind of a DIY recording setup that their dad had, but he kind of like built it out, and I saw drums. I was like, oh man, I got really excited about it. I was just like, I just want to play drums. So my parents got me a drum set one summer, and I kind of just banged away terribly at it for a while, and then took some lessons, and just kind of worked it out slowly, just through kind of playing terribly, to be honest, and then eventually got some chops. And
Because you got to start somewhere.
you got to start somewhere. And yeah, and me and my brother would jam in the basement. He played guitar, and then he got really into guitar and was left-handed, but luckily I was too. So basically all the guitars he had around were just at my disposal, and that kind of transitioned everything. Like I started with drums, he got into guitar, and then he eventually, he was older than me, so he got some recording equipment, and then all that stuff was kind of just there. And when you're a kid, you got nothing to do, in your summers. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to figure this stuff out. And, you're bad, and then you get a little better, and you get a little better, and then, stuff starts to make sense, and you really fall in love with it. And then that's, ever since then, I probably say like, between 10 and 13, I got really, really into it, and kind of just kept doing it.
Yeah. So when did you transition over to guitar? I mean, it was kind of like bleeding over. You kind of
Yeah.
dabbled in both at the same time.
Yeah, I think I played with a lot of friends at first, just playing drums, and then I guess my first bands I played guitar in, though, just because I mean, drums are always fun, but like if I met a really good drummer, I was like, great, I don't have to worry about any of the drum stuff. Like, drums, you got to set them up, you got to bring them places, you got to, and there's just a lot that goes into it. And for whatever reason, I think I really wanted to write songs. Like, it was much more creative for me.
Yeah.
Recording drums is always a lot of fun for me, but when I finally got a guitar and like had been listening to all this great music, I got a lot of ideas on how to, maybe write songs, and then stuff kind of started pouring out of me, like different ideas, and it was just an exciting time. And I think that eventually kind of led on to other things, and guitar was always just one of those things that was very creative, and you could sing and you could arrange, and where drums were, you can arrange certainly, but there's nothing else to it really, other than
Right.
rhythm really. So
Yeah, yeah. So and then this record that you chose, Jets to Brazil's Orange Rhyming Dictionary, it was released in '98. When did you first hear it?
I want to say around that time, so I was pretty young. So I'm 32 now.
Were you a fan of the other bands prior?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and I was, but I think I probably. So I'm trying to think. So I was probably, yeah, I was around 9 years old, and I probably heard it when I was about 10. So that all kind of lines up. I probably got into Jawbreaker a little bit after, I want to say, because this record. I mean, I was definitely aware of it. It's hard to kind of figure out the timeline there, but
Sure.
I certainly Jawbreaker is one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
But this record, for me, out of all the stuff he did, kind of was a pinnacle in my mind. And yeah, it was one of those records that stood out for reasons that at the time I just liked it. You know what I mean? I was just a kid and I was like, oh, this record's cool. Like, I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you why, but now that I'm older, some of it starts to make more sense. And I think that's just because, to me, obviously it's good, but it's also like lyrically and the playing on it's great, but also it's a super inspired record to me. Like, it's all these guys from these different bands that maybe like, it's fine that they play together, but on paper, I guess it seems kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And the record they made is kind of like something no one else was doing at the time, but it just sounds really inspired to me.
Yeah.
And
Did you
were
know
unique.
Did you know
what I mean?
all of this stuff going into it? Like when you first listened to it in '98?
I want to say I was probably too young to
Okay.
know about Handsome or Texas is the Reason. Like, Texas is the Reason I'm sure I'd heard, at some point, but you probably didn't know, their history and whatnot. And I think one of the other guys eventually joined the band from the Van Pelt, but I don't know a ton by them still. But going into it, I probably knew about Jawbreaker through my brother because he was a big fan. But
Yeah.
that's probably all the history I knew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I mean, I just found out about them now. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I knew the name, I knew the band. I
Yeah.
kind of like had a inkling of what they were all about.
Yeah, for sure.
But never really listened to this before. And I didn't also know the history. I kind of just learned about it just now.
Yeah.
So I'm no scholar. I by no means know this history very well, but
Yeah.
but I'm going to go off the cuff and
Yeah.
and speak about it a little bit. So '98, I was trying to figure that out. You just said you were 32, so you must have been around 13 or 14 when you heard this.
Well, 90. So I was born in '89. So if it was
okay.
98, yeah, it would have been.
I'm doing the math wrong then, I think.
That's okay. I would have been like 9.
horrible.
I probably heard it when I was 10. My guess, probably didn't hear it that year.
Yeah, and so did it turn you on at 10?
Yeah, which is crazy.
Wow.
Which is crazy because I just heard a lot of I heard a lot of indie and like punk music back then that it just it inspired me. So it's kind of weird. It's probably just around me all the time, but I liked so many '90s bands. Like the first record I ever bought was Super Drag, Regretfully Yours.
Oh yeah.
Which is '96. So I was really into that then.
Okay.
So I guess that makes sense. Or like Pinkerton, and that was '96. So
Yeah. And so you're like 8 at that time?
less than that. I would have been 7.
Wow. So you were like consuming music at that young age. That's pretty
It's
cool.
pretty weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's like sometimes I'm like I think I'm telling it wrong, but no, that is accurate because that was
Well, you have these timestamps. You have
Yeah.
your age, and you have when those records
for
came
sure,
out.
for sure. And Dookie too was around that time, and that was probably
Yeah.
one of the first records. I was like, oh,
That
this
was
is
like
cool.
'94, wasn't it? 90.
I mean,
It was like
I
94.
definitely liked Weezer's first record for sure, and that was '94.
Wow.
So kindergarten-ish, listening to
That's
some of that
cool,
stuff.
man.
Yeah. So I mean, I was lucky. You know what I mean? I was lucky to have that music around, and but it's all of your friends are listening to that stuff. You know what I mean? Which is funny. Like, and this is one of those records that I showed to my friends, and they were just like, "What the hell is this?" But then a lot of those guys, like, even if they're like not into like indie or punk stuff, they still love this record, which is funny. Like that I've grown up with.
Yeah, well, it's
But-
pretty unique. I mean, as far as like the whole emo thing is concerned, because I think that that's kind of what this record is categorized as mostly.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it's fair to say, I guess, but it seems like it was kind of like a mile marker in the transition of that genre.
Yeah, for sure. Because he was coming off the last Jawbreaker record, and they had signed to a major label.
Right.
At the time, I didn't know anything about it, but now I know that obviously that was a big deal because they were kind of against that, and to have that band end and then move on to the next thing, and this kind of came out of nowhere, and I think people had very different reactions to it, and there was a lot of I don't know, 90s emo bands doing a lot of cool stuff back then, but this to me was very different and kind of very in the moment in that history of all that kind of that genre.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Not that I really think of it as emo. I think it's kind of a weird term, but but it will certainly get categorized as that. Yeah.
Right. Well, we're kind of growing out of it, right? Because like that's the one thing I wanted to say about at least one of your bands, Twin Foxes, because I've listened to the other stuff, the Willow and the Great Western States.
Great Western States, yeah.
And those are kind of all in the same vein because they're all obviously coming from you.
Yeah.
And but I feel like Twin Foxes specifically now, especially because it's the newest thing, is kind of like a new category of emo. It's like kind of like a newer subgenre of it, I think.
Cool. Yeah.
Like it's kind of taken that and just kind of moving it a little further now.
Yeah. I mean, like emo to me, like all those bands that I think of, like I was starting with Right to Spring and going from there, and like I guess Fugazi might even get somewhat lumped into that stuff. Like those are bands I just loved, and for a while they got called emo, and then emo became something else, and now I'm not even really sure what it is, but I just think whatever it is, it's people being honest and somewhat willing to be emotional, and it usually involves guitars and drums recorded acoustically,
Yeah.
What I mean? But no, I love that shit. I just like really good lyrics, and this is one of those records that really stood out to me, and simple production, like I like all that stuff a lot.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into it then.
Yeah, cool, man.
We'll play the first track off of the album. What is it called? I don't have my notes in front of me.
Orange Rhyming Dictionary.
No, the first song is...
First song, Morning New Disease, I think.
Crown of the Valley.
Oh.
Or is it different on the vinyl release? Thank you for bringing the vinyl, by the way.
No, I fucked it up. Crown of the Valley.
It is, okay.
Correct, yeah.
So yeah, this is the opening track to the record, Orange Rhyming Dictionary, like I said, released in 1998, originally on Jade Tree. It's actually gone on to be the best-selling record that Jade Tree has ever released.
Yeah, I read about that too.
Yeah, I don't know how many units really cool. That is, but that's
I don't know. But
cool.
I mean, they had some, Lifetime, Pedro the Lion.
Yeah, big acts, like
pretty
bands
well
that have gone
known,
on to be pretty good. Yeah,
pretty big indie bands.
Right.
They had a really good run in the late 90s, early 2000s for sure.
So about this song, it's a decent opener, I feel. I don't know if it's 98. I don't know if it's like the time that this was being recorded and put out, or if it's just, I don't know, circumstantial. But I feel like the sound quality is a little lacking.
So Jay Robbins actually produced this record. I actually really like the way this record sounds.
Do you? Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if he engineered it. I think he at least produced it. Who knows what goes into it as far as the timetable, how much time they had, all that stuff. But I know they recorded it very live, because I had read that. I think like some article came out about like the 20-year reunion, and there was an interview, and they talked about kind of the recording process, and they had been basically just road dogging it really hard and just playing it live every night, and kind of went in and just laid it down to tape.
6 weeks on tour with the Promise Ring.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Europe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very emo for that time period. But yeah, I would say I kind of like the intro a little bit, because there's like kind of a room mic on the drums, and then all of a sudden it, like the toms come in and then it gets close mic'd. I always thought that was pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the record, I feel like it gets better. Like, there are certainly stronger and better moments, and like some moments that are even kind of like, you know, innovative for the time.
Yeah,
as far as technique is concerned, recording style.
Yeah, I don't think it's super adventurous in any way, but
Yeah.
I think it's super listenable. At the end of the day, to me, like, you know, coming from a recording engineering standpoint, like that is the main goal. No matter how many tricks and cool things you can do, you know, I could certainly nerd out on a lot of other records. This record doesn't have any like insane engineering things on it, but it's just a super listenable, good record, and I think they achieved that, you know. So
okay, because that was actually the question that I had about this song.
yeah
Was that because like with you being an engineer now, and so even listening it back to it now, and you're in, you know, in this current present time, do you ever, like, not even with this record, but thinking about this record, do you ever listen to it and like think like, oh, I kind of would have done something different here maybe, or like it sounds like something that you would want to fix about it?
No, not really, to be honest. It's a pretty simple, you know, production from what I can hear. I mean, it's a little bashy and bright sometimes, but like it never deterred me from liking it. Or I mean, I'm pretty like, unless I'm working on it, I'm pretty good at like letting myself go and not kind of like get too into it unless I want to, is like as far as like looking for stuff and trying to dissect it and all that. But like I said, I think it's super listenable, and it's not maybe not super adventurous, but that's okay. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, I know. I mean, like, it's probably my own fault, because like doing this show and, you know, exposing myself to a record and like
you're hearing it for the first time. So I mean, I've heard it so many times that it's really hard for me, even from an engineering standpoint, to be like, you know, like, oh, it sounds dated or something. It just sounds pretty like late 90s to me. I mean, I love a lot of records Jay Robbins did, and he's kind of a pretty dry, like straightforward kind of guy. He's not too glamorous. A little more on like brightness than, you know, mids and stuff like that. But I just think the biggest thing about this record is that he captured really good performances, and I think that's the thing that I remember most about the record. Like, I'm sure as a producer, like, he worked with them and, you know, made it his, I don't know, he did his due diligence to basically, you know, get the best takes and get the best performances. And I think that's what comes through to me. It's really inspired, like, from the band. They're just really tight, and they're playing live, obviously, but there's like, the arrangements are really cool. The songs kind of meander in a really cool way. And I think this is, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he did a lot of, like, he didn't double track a lot of his vocals on this record, which, you know, I think for Jawbreaker he did a lot. So
yeah, what I saw, because I read a little bit with Jay Robbins, and he said that he basically did like a greatest hits lyrical take. Like, he had him do a bunch of takes of the vocals, and then just splice together all the best parts, instead of having kind of like
and I do that all the time in recording. It's almost all the time. Unless someone obviously nails something all the way through, but yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing I take away. And you know, getting a relaxed, inspired take is not always the easiest thing to do. So, you know, that's something I always aim for when I'm recording, and that certainly comes through for me in this record, and that's the thing I remember the most, probably.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next track, Morning New Disease.
Right on.
So I've kind of spoiled myself, because after my last episode talking to Mark Calhoun about the Kinks,
okay, cool,
I was able to see exactly how much music I played, and I was playing 30 seconds.
Yeah, right on.
But the funny thing about that record compared to this is that within those 30 seconds, you get the gist of the song, like basically a verse, and then at least halfway into the chorus within the first 30 seconds.
Not with this.
No, this is a lot of area.
Oh yeah, this record, like arrangement wise, is it's pretty thick. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, and it's not fair to play just kind of brief segments of these songs or just the intros, because there's so much that happens.
There's a lot that happens.
Yeah. So even aside from lyrically speaking, because so with this song, similar to the last song, and the majority of the album for me personally, lyrically I'm lost. Lyrically, it's really kind of like intricate and like playful and poetic.
Yeah.
It's really hard to kind of grasp what's going on in these songs. So I did my best.
Well, I mean, I think that's what's really cool about this record too, is because I think I had the same reaction when I heard it too. And not to say that I know everything he's ever talking about in every single line of this music, but there's a lot to kind of decipher, and a lot of it can have, some of it I think if you listen to it a bunch you will kind of interpret, but also some of it kind of has some double meanings that are really interesting, and some line will finally make sense to you. Like, it's just a really creative lyrical record, because I mean, you think about if you're familiar with Jawbreaker and kind of where he was coming from there, very personal lyrics, and this is kind of, I don't know, almost more like third person sometimes, and definitely
he's building out characters, it seems.
Yeah, for sure.
More so.
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely, he took more of a leap, I think, as far as lyrically with this record, and I think it was just really creative and just like interesting.
For sure. I can't speak to a lot of his earlier content working with Jawbreaker, because I just don't know a lot of it. I've listened to I think I've listened to almost all of those records to prepare for this, but only like once. And the first record, I think I actually had a copy of that when I was young.
On Fun, or?
Yeah, I believe it was, with the kitten on the cover.
Yep.
Yeah. Because like I remember seeing it, I was just like, oh, I know this record.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I don't really remember any of it. But so what I grasped from this song was that it's super exciting. It's really high energy. I kind of feel like this would have been a really great opener as opposed to the first song. But the more I listen to this, the more I ultimately feel it is like ultimately about dissatisfaction or ambivalence.
I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe just with society.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But that's what, like, yeah, like kind of a generally, like, especially from like a teen's perspective, listening to this as a teenager, that angstiness that you enjoy and you kind of look for.
Yeah.
This sense of idleness, I guess. It's like in general, it kind of seems very lethargic and kind of pissed off and aggravated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that definitely comes through, and I don't know, maybe it's just like, I mean, I couldn't imagine that I knew what the hell he was talking about being that young. But, sometimes maybe that just comes through for whatever reason,
right,
in different ways, and that's communicated and taken in, and I responded to it. But I don't know, I just never really heard anything like it at the time, and I think it just sounds like an inspired record that they were very into it, and that shines through to me.
Right.
And there's just some really sick parts, and that whole like in a stolen car I rocket west out past the Jersey line, and the robots in their riot gear glimmer in my rear view. Like, that's just a really cool line. By
that part especially, that's kind of like what inspired me to think of this, like, it finally hit me, or I was just like, yeah, you know what, like, he just sounds like so fed up with things, know?
Yeah.
So,
I think in his life, I know I don't know a ton about him, but I do know that he moved from California to New York when that band, when Jawbreaker broke up, and he was in a new place, and I'm sure they got signed to Geffen, which is a big label, you know what I mean?
All right.
And that record came out and didn't do well, and then I'm sure he's in a pretty strange place, you know what I mean, kind of starting over musically. So I'm sure a lot of that angst in the record is from a lot of that, you know what I mean?
Right.
I could only imagine.
Right.
But a lot of the leaps he took are really interesting to me, because instead of taking a safe way out, he kind of really pushed himself to try something new, and I think that's really cool.
So, I was wondering, do you hate being idle?
What is it?
Do you hate being idle, or do you like?
Oh, idle.
Yeah, idle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I absolutely hate it. I am. I can't sit still. Like, I have a list of things I want to do every single day, and I work to try to complete all of them. I've gotten worse as I've gotten older because I kind of don't stop, and my fiance is trying to get me to be better because I will skip meals. I'll keep going until I'm almost crazy because I'm neglecting other things. But no, I 100% that person. Can't sleep good unless I got certain things done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that much, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And you kind of seem like you must have at least that ambition.
Oh, for sure.
If you don't consider yourself that.
I just have a lot of things I want to do, and I'm easily inspired, and I'm willing to put in the work. I like the work. The final product sometimes I don't even care as much about than the work. I'm often told that I gotta sit back and enjoy the thing I finish, but a lot of times it's immediately onto the next thing. But that's just how I've always been.
I hear you, man. Me too. We're gonna go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
To the next song, "Resistance is Futile." I gotta cut it off at the good part. I mean,
it's all good.
It's what I have to do.
Do what
really.
you gotta do.
So, there's really a lot that could be said about this one.
Yeah.
So let me throw this one back at you first.
Sure.
Because there are so many ways. There are so many ways this conversation could go. Can you tell me what jumps out at you most about this title, "Resistance is Futile," in relation to the world today?
Yeah, I guess you kind of almost have to succumb to how things are to some degree, because things are kind of so crazy, and we've kind of worked ourselves into such a corner with certain things, whether it's technology or politics or government or the world itself climately in trouble, that I think we're all affected by it in some way, and it's hard to ignore. So it's almost like you can't resist succumbing to some of that emotionally in some way, or being affected by it in some way, whatever that may be. That's kind of how I would think about it now. I think in this song, not to maybe jump what you were saying, but this feels like a Big Brother song to me always. Like,
there you go.
Being watched, surveillance type of thing. Like, and I mean, if you're going to go the technology route, which I always can go down that road, we're certainly not private people anymore. I mean, that's over. It's long over. Right. So, I mean, if, he certainly could have been predicting a few things there. And I mean, I'm sure it was already happening with the internet to some degree. And I mean, Aldous Huxley was predicting that stuff,
right.
a long time ago too. So it's.
I mean, there's always that concept of Big Brother, because you said it exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because specifically at the end of this song, there's like that repeating refrain, isn't it? I don't have the lyrics for it in front of me now, but yeah, the song ends with that whole Big Brother theme.
Yeah,
that Big Brother's watching you.
You're never so small that we can't see you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that I don't so I don't think it's like unique to mention that as in regards to the whole Big Brother thing, because it's been something that's been on everybody's mind, and that anybody that thinks about it will ultimately like glom onto as a fact, is that like we are kind of constantly being monitored.
Yeah.
But especially in relation to today, and because of technology being so immersive. I mean, I'm on all these fucking devices right now,
Yeah,
and it's
you
just
can't-
like, and to
They
do
own
the,
you.
yeah, the idea that like even our phones in our pockets that we all have and have on us all day long can be tracked by the government or
Sure.
whoever for that matter, to
And seem to be listening to us.
yeah, and seem to be hearing everything we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That you can't deny that. I mean,
that's my best
everybody's
audience.
had that circumstance where they talk about something, and then the next thing they know, there's some ad.
right.
I mean, it's much more than that, but it's just it's common, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially now. I mean, because it wasn't this bad then.
No.
But there was always that kind of
Yeah.
like fear of like you're losing your privacy, you're losing your freedoms.
Been a lot of steps towards to where we are now.
Right.
In '98, I mean, the internet's
A baby.
a baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
In homes, but dial up, I would think.
Yeah,
still.
really slow connections, like really like just not worth it.
Yeah.
Like kind of more frustrating to use.
Yeah, than
More
anything.
so than,
Yeah.
than
Especially
helpful.
growing up here, we had the worst internet forever, so I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Uh,
But we all had it bad. Dial-up was just bad. It was
it's just
it-
bad.
Yeah. There was no. I don't think there was really good dial-up then.
No.
Yeah.
We had it though way beyond when other people had transitioned to cable, just because we lived pretty far out in the woods. So
you have to
all
wait
my
extra
friends
long.
had good internet, and I never did.
All right, good. Because I didn't want to get too crazy on that
Oh, yeah,
topic
yeah,
because I
yeah.
know that it's
we could go down that
there's
road.
potential.
Hard. Yeah.
There's potential there to get real dark, real fast. So let's just go ahead and move on to the next song. Starry Configurations.
Yeah, it's when I think the record starts to get really good, in my opinion. I think the first 3 tracks are great, but they're kind of like laying the foundation to kind of just the vibe.
Yeah, this is when it kind of starts to get a little experimental, kind of.
Yeah, and maybe a little deeper.
Excellent accommodations. I'm just a bellboy. Beautiful surroundings. I'm just some gravel. Or Pete Moss, what have you? Or Pete Moss, what have you now? Why must you treat me like you do? Don't you know it's all for you?
Well, yeah, some good lines in it. This one always felt to me, just about a one-sided kind of relationship.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For me, I mean, so this is so this little ditty is the bummer of the album so far.
So far.
Yeah.
It gets more bummery, as this dude often does.
Right. I mean, lyrically, I mean, I really do like it lyrically, like, because reading along with the lyrics while listening to this music, I think is fairly key.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I've never been a big fan of this band, nor kind of any of the bands that
Sure.
came from this band. But, and the whole emo thing too. I mean, I think that like it kind of gets a bad rap for being, this emotional music. That it's a little kind of too hard on your sleeve. It's a little too teary and like
all music
whiny.
is emotional too, so it's
True.
it's such a funny term
Right,
in some
right.
ways. But yeah, I guess it's the honesty
Yeah.
that is what is focused upon when I think in my mind, because people that are willing to be more honest or more open than other music, your top 40 never delves too deep. It's all very basic, but this music is willing to kind of explore those other emotions that I think when this genre came out, hardcore had been around for a while, it was aggression, or whether it was sugary or simple, people hadn't really gone a poetic kind of deep route, and that's the good, if you want to call it emo, that 90s stuff did that well, and I think that music's interesting, and people that are willing to explore that stuff is cool to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry not to rant.
No, that's quite all right. That's why you're here, to rant. But so from what I've read, Blake, the songwriter, Blake Schwarzenbach, had written a lot of this material after the breakup of Jawbreaker. So this could be an unrequited love song for a person or a band.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll leave the context up to you, but when do you or have you felt you're most underappreciated?
Ooh, that's a good question. Most underappreciated.
From a guy that does so much, it's kind of hard to say, right?
Well, I definitely felt that way, certainly, in my life. Yeah, I mean, you know, I do this stuff regardless of if anyone ever listens to it. I do it, I make records that if, regardless if anyone hears them, I do it because I love to do it. But there's also a lot of work that goes into that stuff. Sometimes a ridiculous amount of work.
Of course, yeah.
That can be stressful and also super time consuming, and just it eventually you can be hard on yourself. You go through certain battles, and in the creative process it can be draining. It's not just an ordinary task. There's a lot of decisions that go into it. So yeah, I mean, I suppose that if I worked very hard on something, and I certainly have, and maybe I felt it deserved more attention, or I had hoped that more people had heard it and they didn't. That certainly can make me feel underappreciated. Not really because I'm prone to feeling that I need attention and gratification from other people, but sometimes it still sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you can work really hard and you want to share it, because ultimately, though I do it because I love it and it's important to me, sharing it and whether it's having a conversation or adding something to society or adding something to music culture, like, that's important to me, because that's the reason I do it. I mean, people inspired me. I want to give back and do that as well. So certainly sometimes if, a project I worked on, goes unheard, especially if you work on it for, say a record I worked on for a year or something like that. I mean, yeah, that sucks. That definitely sucks. And I mean, things are different now. There's so many bands. It's not like in the 90s you would just tour and, there was record labels. Things are just so different now. It's almost like things are extremely stacked against you in some ways. So
right.
You take it almost less personally now. But I mean, it still can affect you. To say the one particular time in my life ever felt like extreme, like the one specific time.
Yeah. Like if one comes to mind, I mean, that's a pretty good example. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I guess there isn't like one particular time. I mean, I felt actually kind of on the last, if I'm going to be very honest, I guess the last Twin Foxes record, I probably felt a little more bummed out because it happened during COVID. So it was a hard situation to begin with.
Right.
And you're not playing out, you're not. So to back it in the right way, I wanted a lot more. I worked really hard on that record, so I've worked hard on all those records, but I felt like I always feel like that band will do better if more people heard it. Mm-hmm. But it's just tough nowadays, and I'm actually in a better position to tour now, but for a while I couldn't really do it, and the guys in the band couldn't do it. But
yeah. Well, I mean, you hit a very important subject, being that, you released it during the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I felt that too, releasing the Hammer Parties record.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't just that they lost their guitarist, it was that it came out in October of 2020.
Yeah.
Which is not a great idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that would be my most recent and first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
And that's circumstantial too, but yeah, I mean, any creative stuff that you work extremely hard on, like I said, it is for you at the end of the day, but you still want other people to hear it and, hopefully like it. And when it doesn't maybe reach or get to ears, like that you want that to happen at a bare minimum. Even if they hate it, you want people to hear it.
Of course.
So that's always seems to be the hardest kind of part, because I'm kind of bad at that stuff. Like I'll put a ton into making the record. When the record's done, it's kind of like, all right, what's the next record? Right. There's so much other work that goes into that. Whether it's, promotion, social media, I don't really give a shit about that stuff too much. So it's kind of,
well, you've just put in all this work into making it. Why should you have to worry about that stuff?
Exactly. Yeah. It's weird. I feel like the bands that are the biggest or the best at it now are kind of sociopaths, to be honest, because I feel like anyone I ever met that, this sounds bad, but there's been a few people I've met that have been very successful in music that seem to, are good at manipulating the situation, and I'm 100% not even willing to take a foot into that realm.
Right.
I care about making music. I care about the creative process. I care about that headspace, and after that's done, the record's done, and then I move on.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's like any good artist should do.
yeah, for sure.
Because the business
Because
aspect of it.
the other stuff is just life is too short, man. I'm not good at it anyway. If I was good at it, who knows? Maybe.
well, you're good at making records, so that's what you should be focusing on.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why
But
the
it's
labels
just
even exist.
It's just funny now because being in a band involves so many other things. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not just about making the music. Where I often see bands that are solely Instagram bands. I mean, they don't even have really music out, but they seem to exist in this realm and have popularity. But it's all like hype. It's just like
Right.
I've seen that happen over the years, and it's like it's a thing that to me like it makes no sense. Like to me, like making a record, being in a band, it's work. It's not really. It can be fun, but it's not necessarily fun. You know,
Right.
it's a lot of hard work, and it can be rewarding. But it's not like I do it because it's fun. I do it because it's creative, and it's an outlet for me. I don't
Okay.
know. I could probably talk about that for a while.
Yeah, no, that's
That's
a big,
my
it's a
angst.
big one.
That's my angst coming out about the current music situation. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I like it. I like your answer. I mean, I think it's completely relevant and thoughtful.
Yeah.
But we should move on to the next song. The
Sure.
next song is Chinatown, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
And I will say about Star Configurations, it's when I said one-sided relationship, it's kind of he mentions infatuation in that song, and it's almost like someone that is oblivious to the other person. I guess that's what I meant by that.
Yeah. That's kind of like what I gathered from it, because it's so many comparisons. It's deliberately like taking this lyrically, he kind of juxtaposes the greatness of this one thing to what he considers himself to be this lesser thing that's in comparison to it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what made me.
It's interesting to read the lyrics versus hearing the song as I've always heard it, actually.
Yeah, actually, I did that too. It's very, very poetic. Like it's
Yeah.
literally like kind of built as a poem.
And I'm sure I have, but it's been a while, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think you're right about that. What you just said.
That's what's fun about doing this show, where I have to like kind of submerge myself into a record that I may or may not
nothing
know
about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just fun to see. Whoa, what was the big deal about this record? Because this record was a fairly big deal,
Yeah.
and still is going strong for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
All right, let's try Chinatown.
This is probably their big song, one of their bigger songs of the record.
Stomach exhaustion, a mode of expression, and that's the way. I'm just a question, knowing my answer, hope I'm wrong. I know the answer is 4 in the morning, I'm right again, I'm Chinatown.
Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one too. No, I mean, I'm I don't love this record, but
Yeah,
I like
no,
this
it's
record.
fine.
I mean, I think that it's a good record to know, so I've been happy to kind of dig into it. I think this is just one of the stronger songs on the record.
I'm pretty sure, this has some relation to the movie Chinatown with
The
Jack
movie?
Nicholson.
Okay.
But I've actually never seen it.
Oh, all right.
I'm a big movie buff, but there's a couple movies in my life that I've avoided on purpose because I want to see them at a special moment or something like that, and that's actually one of them. So
Yeah, that's a big one.
because it's one of those movies that I've avoided hard, that Cindy actually almost like rented out a movie theater on my birthday to play some movies, and that was one of them.
Oh, wow. That would be cool.
But it didn't happen. But one day I'll see that movie.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that because I was kind of trying to make comparisons, because I was actually having a hard time with this song lyrically.
Mm-hmm.
So I did think about that, because I have seen that film. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't remember it perfectly, but there are certainly, like kind of key aspects that kind of come to mind when you think about it. So I couldn't make that connection. but overall, I feel like the lyrics are kind of just like a really inside jokey kind of like personal experience things. So much so that like it's hard for an outsider to understand
Yeah.
what he might be speaking about exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like kind of mental illness to me. There's a lot of I don't even know, like, storybooking his like current life around that time. Like, I'm so tired of fighting, I'm so demolished, that's the way. Like, that's kind of like a jokey way. Some make exhaustion a mode of expression, and that's their way. I'm just a question knowing my answer, and I hope I'm wrong. It's almost like living in your weirdness, being somewhat aware of it, but also not totally understanding it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's the thing about this song is just like I really like a couple of lines in there where Blake uses like alliteration playfully. Like there's the example of was my mistress messed up my mattress, I missed the catch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like but what do you think may have been one of your best lyrical moments?
Musically, these are good questions. It makes me think.
It's a hard one too. I mean, you have a pretty vast catalog. I mean, between all the projects, the Great Western States.
Yeah, and even my first band, I wrote all the lyrics in. So, I'll often use alliteration and try to do some clever things here and there. I think any lyrics that stand out to me are like very personal. Maybe not like the best line ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it hits you kind of like does something.
I'm also the worst guy to try to remember his own lyrics unless I'm playing my guitar, like playing the song. For me to recall lyrics, it can be kind of tough. But let me think for a
because I feel like just having what I've heard, like I think there are certainly strong moments where it could be like monumental, like in the moment. Like in the moment, that's a really powerful way to say something with the music. But then, of course, there's some things which you would know better because you know all of the words. Yeah. Where it's just like, well, those are just meaningful words because like the way that they just flew, like they flow when I came up with them or something like that. Like because I write too, or I used to. I don't really write so much anymore, but I think that for the few things that I've written, I'm just like, I could pick something out.
Yeah, I think I'll probably say there's a Twin Foxes line that is, "You're never gonna live if you let the dead dwell." And I always thought, especially when I wrote that song, I wrote that particular song, Mountain, on that record was from a while ago. And I was going through this time where I was really trying to get over some past things. And I kept telling myself that because you can't change the past. It's just a simple thing that everyone knows, but it's such a burden sometimes. And that was probably a really powerful record because it kind of summed up the record, and it kind of summed up all the things I had been going through around that time. So that's a pretty powerful
imagery
line to me. As far maybe not the best line of all the stuff, but it's one that stands out to me, and I'm sure there's something better I'll think of later. But
and I'm sure
at this moment, that's what I'm thinking of.
I'm sure that you have fans of yours of those songs that could probably say like, well, that line I really like the most, but that's because it relates to them and relates to the way that it lands with them. For sure. I have a line for you in case you would ever want to use it. Okay. I came up with a long time ago, a while back. I was having this really weird, depressed moment, like not depressed because I kind of woke up like from a dream, but like feeling oddly like not bummed out by that dream as terrible as it was, because it was actually a dream about my son dying in my arms. Oh Jesus! Yeah, that's intense. It was brutal because he was like a baby at that time. Like this is when he was older. He's like 13 now. Okay. But in my vision, in my dream, he was like near infancy. He was like toddlerish. Yeah. So smaller, and I just woke up like I didn't wake up crying, which I thought was weird. Yeah. But the first line that came up into my mind at that moment was this, like, the best days of our lives are behind us. because, I think this was after Andy passed away, and it's just like,
There's a John K. Sampson line that reminds me of that, where he says, the good old days were mostly bad. Have you ever listened to him? He's the guy from Weaker Thans.
No.
Yeah, you should check him out.
Okay.
This is one of his solo records, but it just reminded me of that, which I always thought was a really good line.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is similar. I mean, like,
Yeah.
because it seems true. It seems like it definitely rings true right now, where it's like, especially at my age. I mean, I'm not that much older than you, but I'm 41 now.
Sure.
And I'm reaching that point where I feel like I've lived this long and have been lucky enough to not suffer any major trauma, so it's gonna come. Like, inevitably, like, these things are gonna happen. I talk to my wife about this all the time. It's like, listen, if I dwell on what's wrong right now, that's gonna be pretty much like a waste of time, because when the shit really hits the fan and shit really does start happening, like, that's when I'm gonna need all of my faculties to deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. And it takes a lot of energy to go through that heavy stuff.
Right, I bet.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because you mentioned how you lost your father, and then, like, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't have been an easy experience.
No, certainly wasn't.
Right, and that's just one of those things where it's just like, that's where I feel our lives are going. It's going to be more of that.
In bringing up that, I always had older parents, so it was something that I knew was going to happen for me, before probably my friends I was growing up with and whatnot. It happened during COVID, which is not a great time to do it. He didn't die because of this happened last July.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez.
No, I appreciate it. But yeah, so it was one of those things where luckily everything, we did home hospice. He had a lung problem, or basically from working around machinery, most likely, and whatnot. It's called pulmonary fibrosis, and he basically couldn't. His lungs basically were ceasing to function slowly, and you need oxygen, and there's no cure for it. But luckily, we were able to do everything at home, and he didn't go into a hospital, and I never saw him again. But I in some ways had prepared myself for a while for that, and you think you're going to feel one way when that happens, and then you feel a very different way. And in some ways, I'm glad I prepared myself and thought about it and like had certain energy for it, but in other ways you can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just interesting that you brought it up, because for the most part there is a lot of big things going to happen for all of us, and acquiring that energy and keeping space for that energy and learning from mistakes and building up experiences to deal with them is important. And sometimes you just gotta, if everything's okay, you kind of just got to enjoy that. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I agree with you, man.
But it was a year of kind of, and I'm lucky now that I'm kind of just doing this stuff. So I've had more time to kind of work through things and think about things and expand this place and kind of take what he did and build upon that. And that's been really important to me. But yeah, it's not easy going through anything like that. Don't wish any of that stuff upon anybody, but it's something that everybody deals with, at a different time in their life.
Right. Yeah.
Not to go down that dark road, but
no, man, I'm just sorry to hear. I mean, it's my fear. It's something that I live with constantly in my mind, as far as it's like when I go to a dark place, it's like that's where I go.
Yeah. And
I'm just like, I don't know if I can deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm personally strong enough to deal with these things.
Yeah. I mean, I think you'd be surprised, but it's like, that was the first person in my life I was extremely close to that I lost. But my fiance had gone through it the year prior with her mom, so it was like back-to-back years where we both lost a parent. And I mean, it sucks, but I think you find ways to deal with it, and then the best parts tend to stay with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you kind of, I don't know. There's always memories too, which is great, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. That's a whole. I don't want to delve too deep into that, because
no,
we
man,
can talk about that forever.
I completely understand. That's completely fine. I mean, we'll just move on. We'll move on to the next song.
Yeah, that's fine. Not to say that I don't enjoy talking about it, but we could probably talk about that for a while.
Oh yeah, no, trust me, dude. I'm I'm the worst. I've got like such a broken brain. I can delve into some really bad stuff really fast.
Sometimes I start with the point and then I get somewhere and I'm like, I don't know what the point was, but
yeah, that's all right. Let's see where we land on Sea Anemone.
Now I'm making out the shapes like the shower rod. Can it take my weight? I will tell you I am fine. I got some news, friend. Feels like I'm dying.
Okay, we just went from bright to even brighter.
We managed to also land on probably one of the most bummer lines of the whole record.
Yeah.
But no, I really like this song. This song, like, we kind of landed on a dark line there, but the song doesn't totally feel extremely dark to me.
Oh, yeah?
There's some, I don't know. I just never really thought of it as, I mean, it goes there, right there, but the whole song itself doesn't feel
Okay.
quite as dark, I should say.
Yeah.
But not to cut you off.
It's hopeful.
Yeah, it's hopeful.
It's
like,
certainly hopeful, and because I don't like to dwell in the darkness, even though that's what we were just touching on.
Yeah.
Because for that reason of, like, not just staying positive, but knowing that things ultimately are going to be okay, and like you kind of like persevere.
And that's
through
kind of what I
things.
was getting at. You know what I mean? That as shitty and as dark as things can get, like there's still more, and there's still some hope and happiness to be had.
Mm-hmm.
In tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, this song to me is kind of like, it's cool because it's one of these moments where I can picture someone sitting there and kind of just, being in a very just like a moment, kind of watching the curtain sway and just kind of thinking about their relationship with someone or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is, and their someone's maybe expectations and standards, and but then there's also this kind of underlying sadness or depression that
Well, it sounds like he's just kind of describing going through a breakup.
yeah
Like it's like kind of like the pits of like the shittiest breakup you've had.
yeah yeah
I mean, it's very emo. It's very like visually like bleak.
yeah
Laying on a floor with a bunch of stuff scattered around you. Like yeah, it's the epitome of like little boy hissy fit after a breakup type thing. You know, and I'm not saying that discouragingly or negatively about Blake's experience, whatever he was going through in writing this song. I mean, I think that it's a very good song, and I do like it. But I just think that when you stamp somebody with like the emo label,
mm-hmm.
it's hard to like separate those things when you're being so
Yeah.
lyrically naked.
I think he pushes himself to kind of be naked, but
Mm-hmm.
no, I think you're right. It's funny though. It's like you seem to have a much more clear in some ways interpretation of some of the songs, where I've just heard them for so long, and I've heard them for so long, the meanings have kind of changed a little bit for me.
Yeah.
But
music that I've like grown up with, that I've liked for a long time.
Yeah.
I've never listened to like this.
Yeah.
This is different. This is like I'm trying to look for the meaning in a song.
Yeah. No.
For this show specifically, because it not only does it help me understand the music and the perspective that the guest is might have, because that's why they chose the thing in the first place, but also to to kind of find something in these songs to ask you about that actually could be significant, like psychologically.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean that's probably like when I probably first heard the song, I'm probably would be saying exactly, what you would be saying, like how it's an end of a relationship. He's alone in the apartment and literally just wants to take his name off the lease and move out, basically.
Right, which could be a metaphor for killing himself.
Yeah, for sure. But that line, the one we landed on, it was always such a line that stood out to me, because especially hearing that when you're so young, like it's not something that you come across a lot of at a young age, you know what I mean? And to have someone directly say that, I mean, it's always stuck out in my mind. And I've had my, if I'm going to be honest, my struggles with depression from time to time in my life.
Sure,
and
me too.
it's something I can be more open about. But when I was younger, it certainly was something that I kept very much a secret. You know what I mean? And you can, if you have someone being that honest, you can almost relate to it and kind of hold on to it, because it's like you're sharing something with someone else that's being honest about it, and it kind of makes you feel kind of okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like there's somebody that understands me.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Right.
Hearing that, maybe I didn't feel that way when I first heard the record, but it certainly, I related to that, when I was older, for sure. And yeah, and that's another reason that I didn't even really think of until we were just talking about it. But I'm sure that's why the time and place at a certain point, I felt like I could really relate to his lyrics.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this, man.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It's very interesting. Because like I said, I mean, if you listen to a record for that long, and I don't listen to this record every day, obviously, but I come back to it time to time, and I listened to it a lot when I was younger. But it definitely brings up some memories, and I can see different stages of my life listening to some of these songs, and kind of my different what I was drawn to, and kind of jog some memory.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, I'm glad that I can kind of help in
Yeah,
in a little degree. So this is cool. I mean, this is just like the clear vinyl variant of the Epitaph Records reissue.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Would
Jade
you-
Tree, I don't think technically I think they were a label again for a little bit, but I don't think they are anymore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Would you mind hitting me with a second disc? I didn't realize
yeah.
that there was.
Yeah, they broke it up for
Oh, they had to. It's a long record.
sound quality.
Oh, you think this would have fit on one
Actually,
LP?
I don't.
It's
don't
like
know.
53 or 58 minutes, I think.
Is it that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little long, but very nice.
I should know that. It is a long record, long songs. They always kind of
Yeah.
long songs.
It's like 11 songs, but they're a little lengthy. So
So it kind of got me into the 5-minute song too, to be honest. Like I was like, oh, you can write a song longer than like 5 minutes or 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
oh yeah. So the next song is Lemon Yellow Black. Let me see. I'm thinking maybe we can skip a song or two for right now.
Sure. Yeah, I would say King Medicine through I Type for Miles or through Sweet Avenue are, definitely some of my favorite songs on the record.
All right, you know what? We'll go ahead and we'll do this one, and we're just going to do the next two very quickly. I've got very specific points to make about them.
Sure.
So let's use this. Lemon Yellow Black.
What would be good right here? Some yellow, touch of humility, original sin or two from you. Half of my
This song, lyrically, I don't think of as like a first-person narrative.
Yeah, I agree.
But could be from the perspective of an overbearing boss, or at least someone of a high-ranking position talking down to somebody, like a gopher of some sort.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. This is one that I guess meaning-wise, I haven't delved in too much, but I guess what I always kind of took away from it, I guess, was almost how kind of messed up the system is, and kind of how these smart people can end up being, waiters, or not that being a waiter is a bad job, but might have might be on the path to something else and find themselves doing something else because of how the system is, and how unfair I guess it can be.
Right.
And yeah, some of the lines like yeah, good French collaborators. We heard you make great waiters, make us proud. No job too small or messy. Your lack of feeling pleasing. And this might mean something totally different to him, but that's kind of what I always associated with.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I pulled out of it. So I was wondering, can you tell me what was one of your worst jobs, or have you even had a horrible job?
Oh, I've had plenty of bad jobs. I've had more jobs than I can probably count, just because I never wanted to go the traditional corporate route or anything. Though I've had one corporate job in my life. But no, I've worked at a bunch of restaurants and they were all terrible. Those were some of the worst jobs I had because whether it was the owner or just like the mental illness, they were just like they were never good places to try hard at. Like it's not like you'd get recognized for your putting in good work. It was more just like a fucked up society of not great people. Not to say that they were all bad, but like there was some it's just like restaurant business can just be a dark place sometimes.
Well, they're hotbeds for fucking like nasty shit.
Yeah.
Like, so from my experiences, I've worked at restaurants too, and I've actually met my wife working at a restaurant.
Right on.
And so we have both been there for many years, and it was a very strange work environment because there wasn't the high turnover rate.
Yeah.
So it became very family-like, where
Yeah,
it's
for
just
sure.
like you get to know everybody a little too well.
Yeah.
But what I've realized, moving on from there, is that that kind of happens everywhere.
Yeah. The longer you stay, I mean,
Yeah.
it's harder to leave because you get close to people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of inevitable because you can't be the asshole that shows up to work and just like doesn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you have almost some social responsibility.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough. It's not a great.
I mean, I want to say that those were bad because like at the time, especially I had like some social anxiety, so like being at a restaurant dealing with different people coming in and out, and then like kind of like there's like a social element to that job, more so than other jobs. I would say that you kind of have to interact a lot more. Like that just wasn't fun for me. Like I was like, I'm doing this job because I need money, but I should not work here. You know what I mean? And I figured I was like, and then like a year later, I'm like, oh, I can actually do something different. You know what I mean? I was like kind of white knuckling my way through a job that I probably had no business doing. But I was fine at it, but it was just like, it wasn't for me.
Right.
But no, and then like I had a kind of a corporate kind of job where I did kind of IT stuff, and I guess kind of where we're talking about coming from places where you kind of develop a personal relationship. This kind of felt like the complete opposite, so much that I felt like the people that worked there, nothing about the job was personal whatsoever. And to me, that was kind of like, shocking in a way, because like whether you were a good person or not, it kind of didn't really matter. And it seemed like the people that did the best of the job were kind of the ones that were best at manipulating. In this particular job, I kind of worked from home too. So though working from home sounds really cool for someone that doesn't do it, I did not enjoy it at all because I need to move around, I need to get out of the house. It may not completely be on them, but I'll just say that like corporate environment was not for me either.
Yeah. It's soul crushing, man.
Well, just being on a computer, and in this particular job, I dealt with the public, and it was like the general public, and working from home during an isolated time, dealing with like complete random people. You're a target for you see into the world's current mental state, and it was a little too much to deal with every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gets old real fast, especially when you're in that environment to begin with. The whole world's going through it, and like I said, I was going stuff with my dad. Like, ugh,
Yeah.
I got over that quick, and thankfully I don't work there anymore. But
Right.
thankfully I got to do that for a little bit, and I got to take that money and then put it towards the studio, and some good things came out of it. But
Yeah, there you go.
had a few bad jobs in my day.
You gotta have some silver lining.
And any job I worked outside was usually the best jobs I had. Any indoor stuff all day definitely gets to me.
Right. I can see that, man. Let's move on to Conrad.
Double-edged and super blue, vertically letting the light from you, casting a new darkness through the room. Angels lay their odds on you, know not quite what they should do, only that they can quite tear themselves from the view.
Oh boy. Yeah, after reading the lyrics along with this music, it has all clicked and come completely into perspective just how dark this song is.
Yeah. Feel free to share. Sorry, I'm just reading something here.
No, that's fine. It's so it's pretty blatantly graphic, but with beautiful poetics.
Yeah.
We kind of just got off the topic of darkness and kind of being in dark places, but unfortunately this song is pretty deliberately speaking about a suicide, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you tell me what you think would be a gruesome way to go?
A gruesome way to go. Yeah, we have gone down the dark path. This is that record. A gruesome way to go. I think any suicide that leaves you to be found by someone else in a violent way is bad. Not necessarily for the person that did it, but for the people that have
What
to
that person is inflicting upon whoever it is that finds them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way to do it. I mean, during quarantine, I lost a friend to suicide, and I had never had anyone, and I had other friends that were much closer to this person, but the fact that I knew I know who found them, but I also like knowing just that scene of having someone find them. It's just something I wouldn't wish upon anybody. It's just it's really hard, and not to say that person took the easy way out, or any person that does that. I think there's a certain point where that makes sense for that person, and at the end of the day, it is their decision, no matter how devastating or how that affects other people. One's life is their life. But I think any situation that puts another person in that situation is just, that's hard to me. But I guess if I was the person in that situation to go,
I guess you wouldn't really care.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like whatever. I guess in some ways you don't want to seem like it was an accident. Like if I would, if I had to make that decision and I was confident in that decision, I wanted to make it known that it wasn't a mistake. You know what I mean? But I guess yeah. I don't know. It's a tough question question to answer, because
realistically, anything is pretty gruesome, I guess.
Yeah, I guess anything that was violent.
Because especially if you're thinking about it in suicide,
Anything that
because
was slow,
I wasn't thinking about it in terms of suicide. I was just thinking in general, like would be a pretty shitty thing to have happen.
Yeah.
If you put the context of like it being a suicide, that kind of I think adds a different level to it, where it's just like, well, now you're also having to think about what happens afterwards. You know, like who finds this person, because ultimately that is going to have to happen. You know,
Yeah.
and it's pretty gross. I mean, and it's not great. Well, I mean, just to put this into perspective, that I'm not just some kind of like sadist asking these weird questions.
No, not at all. I mean,
I
if
think
anyone
about-
that's heard this record, it would make sense to talk about. You know,
Right, but I mean, like
thing or
me
two about
personally,
this.
I think about these things where it's just like I don't think about it as much anymore as when I used to when I was younger. But there's still certainly some moments where, like, I have these very strange ideas of less like, you know what, like I could be walking down the street like at any given point of the day, and for some odd reason I feel like there's going to be a car that just like jumps a curb and just fucking smashes me against the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm like confident that's going to happen for some reason.
Yeah.
The likelihood of that happening is not very good,
Yeah.
but that's where my brain goes sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes I do this weird thing where I think if I go into some situation where I'm maybe slightly uncomfortable, I think of the worst possible thing that can happen, and then it makes me feel slightly better because it's either extremely outrageous or I'm like, oh, that's the worst thing that could happen. The thing I'm about to do is going to be not nearly as bad as that.
Right.
And it's like some weird form of anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
But
a coping mechanism even, right?
But yeah, no, but if you think about it, there's a silver lining to thinking about it, stuff like that too, because you're like, you know, you can go to a dark place and have suicide ideology, and, you know, something goes wrong, well, I could just, you know, end it or whatever. But all that time you're wasting thinking about that stuff, you could get killed, like you said, just crossing the street, so you might as well live in the moment. And that's something I think when you're younger, you know, everything is life or death, but when you get older, you're like, well, you know, things really aren't that bad. You know what I mean? And that comes with age. And I think when Blake was probably around my age when he wrote this, actually. He's probably a little bit younger. I actually don't know, but
yeah, I didn't actually
early
see that.
30s. He might have been my age, but
Could have been.
I guess I kind of digressed. But I guess if you think about things that way, you know, it's a reminder to almost be in the moment, because anything could go wrong at any moment, so you might as well live carefree and do what you want to do, because it could end at any time, whether you choose or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. So the next song is King Medicine. I think maybe I could skip this one because I don't even really have a good question for it.
Okay.
It's you know,
this is it. I'll just say that anyone that's never listened to this record, this is one of my favorite songs on it.
oh, King Medicine, is it?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
No,
well,
it's
we'll have
okay.
to play
No,
it.
it's okay. I'm just saying it's got like the end of the song, how it changes. It's just like a great part. It's just
All right, well,
it's just heavy to me.
let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, you actually hit it.
Foul weather friend, you were so dying. An amateur chemist now.
It's really good drum and bass on that.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a good drummer.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Drummers are like kind of my favorite part about bands right now. Like if you have a great drummer,
Yeah.
I'm digging your fucking band.
As someone that played drums in a band for a while, I can definitely go down that road easy. I can just like forget everything else about it, and just like the drums are sick.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of like a not dumb way to look at it, but like I can go down that road all day.
Well, I
'cause,
mean,
like,
it's just
I love drums.
It's the backbone to the music,
Yeah,
really.
it's just rhythm. There's just something about tasteful rhythm. It's just awesome.
Sure. So, I mean, the only thing I wanted to say about this song just is that it just seems like a very kind of cut and dry depiction of, well, not cut and dry, actually. It's actually kind of a poetic and kind of flowery way of acknowledging drug addiction. Because I think King Medicine is actually a, like, personification of drug addiction.
Yeah.
The way that he uses it lyrically in the song.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that was pretty cool. That was the only kind of part about this song, but at the same time, it has to do with drug addiction, and I don't really have any questions for you about drug addiction.
Yeah, and I've never been addicted to heroin or anything like that. But
Well, good.
No, for sure. I mean, there's like this is just kind of a lyrically, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just like some good word choices in this song, and this song just has more of like kind of a rocking kind of band feel to me that I kind of always, to some degree, I kind of shut out the lyrics and kind of always just like got into the song just from like a musician kind of standpoint.
Yeah, with good reason. I mean, it's a good song. All right, well, so the next song should be "I Typed for Miles."
Yep.
Let's see what we
Maybe
find.
they just went the fidelity route.
A hotel, I'm not traveling between 2 points in midair. I'm levitating above the earth, beneath the sky, with eyes like static. In my 3 feet from bed to wall, sleeps a genius. Leave me here to my devices.
This is my favorite song on the record.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Because so what I learned about this song doing some of the research was that it was inspired by a scene from the film in Barton Fink.
I watched that movie like 3 weeks ago. I've seen it before, but
Yeah.
Cindy had never seen it. My fiance, so we watched it.
Oh really? Cool.
I love that movie. I'm a big Coen Brothers fan, but that is one of the weirder Coen Brothers movies if you've ever seen it.
I've seen it, but it's been so long actually that I can't really remember it.
It's like the weirdness that Coen Brothers they do sometimes, but it's a full movie version of that, and there's a lot of interpretations of that movie. But it's kind of like a weird short film, but in a feature. But the acting is really good in it, and a lot of metaphors. I would say.
Yeah.
Overall, it kind of gets a little out there in like subtle ways.
Like from what I remembered, is it kind of like a noir film?
Yeah,
But it's like a full-length movie.
It's a full-length movie where he's basically writing. He'd just come from doing a very successful play in New York, and his agent tells him that he's been offered to go to L.A. to basically write scripts. And like at the time, it was kind of like you get paid a lot of money to do it, but it's not necessarily fulfilling work. And he goes there to basically make some money for a bit, kind of against his own better judgment, and he hits writer's block and he can't write. He's commissioned by the studio to write a wrestling movie basically, and he's in his hotel room, and next door to him is John Goodman, who's this traveling salesman basically, and they kind of create this friendship, and he ends up being a complete psychopath, and he's kind of like lying about what he's doing. He claims to be a salesman, but he's actually like a murderer. But yeah, anyone listening that's never seen the movie should definitely check it out, because it's one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies, and there's a lot of good Coen Brothers movies. But
Oh yeah. Well, that was one of their first, wasn't it?
yeah, it was, I want to say early 90s, probably like 92.
Like I literally think that could be their first or
Miller's
second release.
Miller's
Crossing
is before that, I think.
All right. I can't think of their discography. They're like chronologically. They're chronologically.
Yeah, I think
Chronology.
Miller's
right?
Crossing, I think they might have done a short that I didn't see before that.
Right.
Something like that. But then Raising Arizona,
Oh, that's great. I love that movie.
that might be before. That's before, I think.
Barton Fink?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that's
Weird.
it's in the 80s. And
Yeah.
Barton Fink is not that in the 80s. It's either, I think it's
Wow.
like 92 or
I'll
something.
have to look that up. That's wild to me.
But no, their movies are great.
Okay. Well, so we already touched on it because considering, your description of the movie and kind of putting that into perspective, I knew there was something about that, and obviously the content of the music. It seemed, I was just like, I think the easiest connection I can make here is that the speaker sounds to be a bit of a workaholic.
Yeah.
And I've already got into that with you clearly you are a workaholic.
Yep. It's funny though you brought that movie up because I didn't really know that was about that.
Right. Well, because you had said that you assumed Chinatown was based on the film, or may have had some kind of connection to that film.
Yeah, I had assumed. I mean, the lyrics don't really. What I know of the film, like I can't say totally because I've never seen it, but they don't really seem super related.
They don't seem related.
Yeah, at all. So
not really. No.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
like you could make a stretch. I'm sure, and like I haven't seen that movie.
But maybe
in a while.
I'm just saying that because I heard that at some point, or picked that up along the way, or maybe he just lives in Chinatown in the story and the lyrics, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, they did. I'm assuming they conceived this album and the band while living in New York.
Correct, and there's a big Chinatown there. So
I don't know.
Yeah,
could have something to do with that. That's why I'm saying like a lot of inside jokes, personal experiences, things that are kind of like woven in here that
we don't really know the full meaning of.
No.
Yeah, and that's why part of me, I guess, glaze over some of the lyrics and have never really like tried to think of what he was thinking of in some ways.
Right.
And I do that with some records, but as much as I love this record, it's one of those where I kind of just like I just go along for the ride.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you were exposed to it at such a young age that
I have kind of a different perspective. Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's get in closing. Let's move on to the last song, Sweet Avenue.
Looking at all these trees, I feel affinity with everything so soft and still. Budding at my fingertips, touching you, I start to bloom. Alive with trains and passing ships, soft and sweet along your lips now. I go, oh
wow. One thing I want to... Good point to end on. I want to say one thing about the last song, though. The "You Keep Fucking Up My Lifeline" always felt like one of the bigger parts of that record. The end of
from the last song?
Yeah. I just wanted to say that.
So we just listened to the last song, Sweet Avenue, at least a little section of it. Basically, the only thing that you can really say about this song is that it seems that the singer, I'm going to just assume that it means Blake, has finally found love.
Yeah, it sounds like it's 100% a love song. There's no doubt about that.
So he has finally found love. Have you?
Yeah, I thankfully have. I've been with someone for almost 9 years now, and we're getting married next year. So
wow.
Yeah, I don't every day feel like maybe this song, but we've been together for a while, and I'm very much in love. But this song is I think a like instant or the moment where you fall in love, maybe. Mm-hmm. Or that initial butterfly kind of stomach nervous kind of thing that
the beginnings,
which is a really cool feeling.
Yeah, and unfortunately you'll never get that feeling again.
which is funny when you've been with someone for a while. Yeah,
right.
You get it in other ways, but
right.
There's other rewards, but yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean I've been married now for fucking. In October, we'll have celebrated 12.
Yeah, that's a while.
12 years of marriage, but we've been together for like 14.
Yeah. So we took the slow route as far as the marriage goes, but
yeah, it's the same thing though. I mean, you're pretty much up there. That doesn't really change, I don't think.
No. We definitely have went through a lot of life things together too. So it's been I feel like when we get married, nothing's really going to change. Just be legal.
Yeah,
legal
exactly.
Document.
Yeah.
But no, there's a lot of great lines in this song that have always stuck out to me.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's so. With that being said, it's the perfect way to button up this album because it seems like through all the progressions,
darkness.
Yeah, I mean, like darkness and weirdness and frustration and like anxiety, whatever it is that he's been feeling, all of these things have led up to this moment where it's kind of like the happy ending.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really cool record in that sense because we kind of painted a little bit of a picture, but yeah, you're right in the sense where it starts out on the angsty side, and then kind of delves into a darker realm, and then really dark, and then finds its way out of it, which is, I guess if there's any concept to it whatsoever, that's kind of the one there, the flow of it.
I'm happy to hear that. I know that we were talking earlier about your plans for next year when your wedding is going to happen, and
Yeah.
it seems like it's going to be a little bit on you, a lot of like pressure on you to get it ready.
Everything I generally do is DIY, so we're renting obviously like a tent and some other things, but like I took it upon myself to like redo this area on the property that was kind of like super unkempt, and I've over the last year been working on it and getting all these other random machinery that was kind of had been neglected here and getting it up all and running. So I've been DIY mechanicking my way around stuff, and
Right.
so it's been fun though. I mean, I just like learning and pushing myself to do new things. So I've gotten everything running so far. So that's been a fun experience, and that's kind of how I do everything. I just like doing it myself, and I like the work, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I like the journey and the progress.
Feeling getting to the end and feeling like you've done a job well done, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Give yourself a little pat in the back, be like,
that's
I
what we were
did
talking
that.
about earlier.
All right.
Yeah, that part doesn't happen as much. It's more about I get excited for the next thing.
No, you're not looking for somebody else to give it to you. You give it to yourself. You're like,
Yeah, that's the
you
hard
did
part. A little hard on myself, but it's all right.
Well, congratulations. I mean, I'm happy to hear that you guys are going to do that.
Thanks,
It's
man.
just a nice and great experience to go through.
Yeah, we're supposed to do it this past summer, but because of COVID, it just gets complicated. You want people to have fun,
Right.
So
And so now, what's going on with the band? I know that you mentioned that you guys are finishing up a new record for Twin Foxes, at least. I don't know about any of your other projects.
yeah, right now at Twin Foxes, as far as my stuff goes, we recorded our third full length in June. We did all the basic tracking in June, and then I've been layering guitars on ever since. And I'm like, I have like 3 more songs to go for guitars, and then it's vocals, and then some extra little things, and that's pretty much it. We tracked this one entirely live, so no overdubs as far as the basic tracking goes, which we've never done. So every record we've done has been different. So 7-inch was live, but like scratch guitars and went back over everything. Second record was all multi-tracked with like, for the most part, like clicks and stuff like that. And then the third record, Broken Bell, was mainly just me because we didn't have a drummer at the time. Me and Andrew and Trevor did play some guitar on it, but so that was all multi-track. This one was just like as live as we could get it, just very rehearsed. Like we were thankful we could rehearse through quarantine and stuff like that. So so I'm really excited about this one. I feel like it's my favorite one we've done.
Cool.
And then
Tell me, so I think the first record, Sleeping on the Attic Floor, was released by Tor Johnson?
yeah, Tor Johnson and Midnight Werewolf, which is a Boston label. He's done
Okay.
a bunch of Boston bands, so they kind of did a co-release with that.
Yeah, okay. And the last record was...
The last one we released digitally during quarantine, and we did a crowdfund basically for the vinyl. So we raised money for that. We're still working out some of the details for the vinyl. It's probably going to be a pretty limited release, maybe like 100. We were going to do 300, but I think we might just do 100. But we're working out the details. Like COVID just like messed kind of everything up, and then all the pressing plants are like really far behind right now.
Okay.
So we have enough donations to get it pressed, but hit a couple snags. So we're working that out. So that record's probably going to come out. My best guess right now is sometime in the spring, just because of how delayed everything is.
Yeah.
But that'll be out physically on vinyl. But then this record, I'm sure will probably be done by then, and we'll be trying to figure out what we're going to do. What we're going to do this next time for this third record. But then there's other little side projects going on too. The end of this month, some friends of mine from the bands Holiday Music, Soft Fangs, and this band Kittner out of Boston, they friends of mine I've had for a while. We're all going to get together, and they're kind of guys that are generally like the leaders of their band, but we're going to get together, and we've been friends for a while. And we're just going to try to spend a weekend and try to make an EP or something like that. So there's no name for that. And then a friend of mine from this band, Boring, which was from Providence for a while, he moved away. But I played drums on a project called Snuffed Out that we recorded, I think, 4 songs. And those are almost done. So there's been some other kind of little things here and there, side projects with friends and whatnot. But
That's cool. In addition to running the studio and having bands come in here all the time.
Yep, doing all that stuff, mixing, mastering, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Are
yeah,
you open
busy.
for business? Like, are you looking for more clients, or are you kind of jammed up right now?
Yeah, for sure. No, there's always room for more. I'm always down to take on more projects. Recording a few bands right now. I've been doing a lot of mastering work lately, but some bands will be coming in soon. Should be doing the next Darklands record. They're a Providence band that I'm pretty excited about. They're good friends of mine. And then Hammer Party will be finishing up there, and there's some other stuff coming down the line. So
Yeah.
there's always stuff going on. But yeah, I'm always open to working with other people and collaborating. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I will attest that this is a really cool spot. I mean, I haven't recorded here,
Yeah.
but I've heard a lot of the recordings from here.
Yeah.
And just a really great little spot, man.
Thanks, man.
Great little studio, and
I
just
appreciate
really
it.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Looks like it'd be a great time just kind of hang out here for like a whole day and just kind of
Yeah.
like play music and just have a
Absolutely.
good time.
Yeah, it's in the woods, and I'm happy I got to do it here because it's a special place for me, but it's a really good environment to kind of forget about the outside world and kind of just, you didn't get a chance to see the property, but I mean, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere to some degree, so you can kind of do what you want and
Yeah.
get
I'll come
lost
back.
and be creative. Yeah, for
I'll
sure.
come back with a Hammer Party or something, and then like
Yeah.
they'll be busy, and I'll be like, I'm just gonna wander.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff back there. There's even an abandoned a colonial ghost town if you walk back far enough.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so that's a whole other
All right.
topic.
I'll make a video. I'll like, bring the cameras.
It's a little bit of a hike, but it's not too bad. I'd be down to take some people there. It's fun.
Okay, that sounds cool, man. Sure,
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Sweet.
All right, Jared. Well, hey, thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great, man. Thanks.
It's great having you. Vinyl and Vision is a Psychic Static production. Theme song written and performed by Jeff Robbins of 123 Astronaut.